What is good, y'all? Welcome back for this fine Ruby Thursday. Not Ruby Tuesday like the restaurant. Nah, Ruby Thursday. Today, we're finishing out World of Remnant, y'all. We're going from episode 11 all the way to 16. And look, at this point, I would have kind of went over a lot of things that the show had touched on, but this series has maybe went a little more in-depth, gave me a better understanding. And look, if y'all enjoy this, make sure to hit the official RWBY YouTube channel. What is left of Rooster Teeth, Viz Media? You gotta, show them some love because they brought Ruby back. Hit them with the goodness, and if you don't know what the goodness is, I got you. Like, comment, subscribe, share, lock it in by hitting the bell. That is the goodness. Hit them with it, and if y'all enjoy my reaction, please do the same for your boy. Let's get to it. First episode we have is episode 11, Atlas. Because technically where I left off on episode 10, they're going through pretty much the different kingdoms, right? But tell me more about Atlas, because it seems like I know the militaristic nature, but is there, and I know that the Schnee family is like from there and all of that, but is there anything more y'all can tell?
I suppose it's time we talked about the fine people at the top of the world.
Crow.
Atlas is Remnant's youngest and arguably most successful kingdom, but it's a bit of a special case. See, before the Great War, there was no Atlas. There was Mantle. At some point in time, a group of settlers were crazy enough to venture out into the northernmost continent of Solitas. I guess when you're that desperate, a frozen hunk of rock doesn't seem like such a bad place to call home.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the harsh weather conditions proved to be just as useful as the mountain ranges when it came to keeping the creatures of Grim at bay. But it also kept the people of Mantle from flourishing.
Yeah,
Humanity's
I can see that too.
Trick up its sleeve, though. Whenever we're faced with a problem, our inclination is to find a solution. The cold climate of Solitas forced its settlers to adapt.
Even though we can't find a solution to us being the problem, bro.
They developed a more advanced technology, and they did it faster than the rest of the world. Because they had to survive. But it was the Great War that really kicked things off. New forms of dust application and weaponry allowed Mantle to expand. More and more territory was set aside for dust.
I looked through the playlist. I'm gonna learn about that Great War by the end of this, because I heard it's been referenced in multiple of these. I think the Vital Festival is kind of a reference to the Great War as like a kind of to show memory over it. And it's kind of treaty peace thing, like the Hunger Games. I can't wait till I get to that section, because Pro is kind of going heavy on that war now.
Dust mining and research. The territory beside the kingdom's combat school, Alcius, was the most opportune area to construct a new R&D facility. But by the time things were all said and done, it would be much, much more. Alcius was reopened as Atlas after the Great War to house many of the warriors now seeking guidance. In an effort to give back to the citizens, Mantle applied all sorts of new dust techniques and technologies it had used in the war to beef up the Academy's campus. The school grounds expanded faster than they could have imagined, and even helped to better secure the surrounding areas. It wasn't long before the kingdom's military moved in, then the labs and research facilities, and eventually even residential areas started popping up. In time,
is it still cold outside though?
The city of Mantle was living in Atlas' shadow, and so the decision was made to move the kingdom's capital. Mantle was old news, and the kingdom of Atlas was born. A golden age of prosperity, they called it. But those left behind in Mantle would probably tell you that it was the coldest winter they ever knew.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY. For more RWBY
I'm more of a non-hostile takeover. Like, you pretty much said, our military and our lives are so great. Why are y'all the capital? Hmm. Hmm. Let me know.
Related content. Check out
you know, some
RichiKing.com.
rich
There's
dads
also a ton of
definitely
other
laughed
great
on them,
animated
bro.
content on this channel, so go ahead and click that video to watch more.
And please subscribe for more Archie animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell.
Mash that bell.
Those notifications. You would know.
All right, episode 12, and this should be the last of the Kingdom's Vacuo. Does anyone still work on the RWBY official channel?
Now, if there's one kingdom that's had it harder than the people of Mantle, it's Vacuo, the last of the four great kingdoms. The western end of Sanus is a barren and desolate wasteland. But long ago, before man went and ruined everything, it was a paradise. In the center of the vast desert was an oasis unlike anything you'd ever seen. A jungle bursting with natural resources, geographical defenses, and the world's largest recorded deposit of dust. Nomads that survived the journey across the scorching sands settled down and
they have the most dust. This kind of reminds me. I know, but this reminds me of kind of China and Europe, where China had gunpowder first, and they made bombs, but Europe made guns. It's like y'all had the technology for the longest, y'all just didn't apply it correctly.
in this little hidden gem, and over time the Kingdom of Vacuo thrived. Unfortunately, comfort breeds weakness. While the rest of Remnant had to learn
That's
and
what it
adapt
was.
in order to survive, Vacuo's ancient society kicked back and lived a life of complacency.
Nope.
But when
Never get
other
complacent.
developed kingdoms set their eyes on everything Vacuo had to offer, its citizens couldn't do anything to stop them from taking it. Years of human conflict, unrestricted mining, and ecological disasters have changed Vacuo. The paradise that was once there is practically indistinguishable from the surrounding deserts. Citizens live in makeshift homes, uprooting and traveling frequently in response
fall
to the
from
fleeting
grace.
resources and homes. Uprooting and traveling frequently in
Am I tripping? Does that look like a salamander or like a lizard head? And at first I thought it was someone holding something. It might just be a chest. Like that looks like a person holding something low key. I might just be grasping at straws, but I just
response to the fleeting resources
Just looks
and occasional
interesting.
attacks from the creatures of Grimm.
and I feel like it was
After
done
the
on
Great
purpose.
War, a formal government was finally established. But by that point, the folks living in Vacuo didn't much care to uphold its laws, making Shade Academy the only real source of order in the kingdom. But order isn't everything. Vacuo may not be as prim and proper as the other three kingdoms, but it's still standing. And the people there have a mutual respect for one another. You see, there's really only one unspoken rule in Vacuo. If you can survive here, then you're welcome here. So there you have it. Vale, Mistral, Atlas, and Vacuo. You know, Oz would always say that the four kingdoms were a representation of what mankind is capable of when working together.
All right, if I had to be from anywhere, I want to be from Vacuo or Vale. Like I feel like Vale, Vale could easily, both of those areas can create a main character, bro. Like if you go through Vacuo, you're gonna go through some hard times and it's gonna make you tough. But if you got like a good heart, bro, going through tough times, being molded by that, having a good heart, you gonna be a dog. And then Vale, I mean, we've been seeing what's been going on with it, bro. They have a lot of talent and they nurture their talent well. Atlas, not gonna happen. you're just too, how do I put it? You're too like primmed and prepped up too much, bro.
Ever the optimist. We sure could use him now.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY. For more RWBY-related content, check out roosterteeth.com.
There's also a ton of other great animated content on this channel, so go ahead and click that video to watch more.
And please subscribe for more Archie animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell.
Mash that bell.
Those notifications. You would know.
All right. Now that we know the four kingdoms, we, I guess, are learning more about what happened between the kingdoms with episode 13, Between Kingdoms. I ain't do nothing clever there. I just kept talking. Got notifications. Between Kingdoms.
So, now you know more about the kingdoms. But what's between the big cities? Alright, the easy answer is RIM. There's no reason to beat around the bush. They're out there. And it probably won't go well if you run into one. But that's okay, because you're a huntsman. Or huntress. And you've trained at one of the major academies, so you're probably fine. Just don't get yourself overrun by a pack of them. Now, after a long day of killing Grimm and saving the world, you're going to probably want to stop at a small town inn.
Like an
Small
adventurer
villages
does.
dot the land between the major cities. You might ask, with the wilderness being so dangerous, why not just live in the big cities? Well, that life isn't meant for everyone.
True.
These small towns are founded by people that have a problem with the kingdoms, or don't want to deal with the kingdom's problems, or maybe just enjoy the simpler life and would rather take their chances in the wild than in a kingdom.
I feel that so much, bro. Because look, I've been in Atlanta, living in Atlanta since I was a kid, bro, since like 2nd or 3rd grade. And when you live in Atlanta or in the city long enough, and then you kind of go outside of the city for a little bit, Smyrna, Georgia, maybe Kennesaw, you know, like, go out there, bro. It's like, because you're still close enough to the city that anything relevant that happens, you can still be involved. But then you don't got to deal with that fast-paced, heavy traffic. It's fast and slow, because it's fast with all the things that are happening, but slow because of traffic, the chaotic nature of the city. Yeah, I'm like, give me the edge of the city, you feel me? Or just outside of it. Look, I don't care if I live outside of 285, bro. I don't care.
It goes about as well as you'd think.
Maybe not this far.
If the founders are smart, then there's a good chance these towns can survive for the same reason the kingdoms continue to. Natural barriers, strong defenses, and stubborn citizens. If you don't have at least a few of those, then the chances of a town lasting more than a year isn't great. Unfortunately, it's not just the Grimm running around ruining towns. Wandering bandits are another threat.
I promise y'all, I ain't watched this, bro. Also, yo, tell me right now. Trevor Belmont would be a fire huntsman, wouldn't he, bro? If you watch Castlevania, you know. And Richter. I can't say his name without the accent. It's a problem I have. Richter Belmont. There we go. He would be a fire huntsman too. Cypher. A lot of characters like from Castlevania, if they weren't a vampire, they were a human who were cold. It would be dope to see a crossover. That's all I'm saying.
These groups of usually fairly skilled fighters travel the lands, never settling in one place. They often prey on convoys, sending goods between kingdoms. But that's not all. These raiders will often wait for a town to be at its weakest, maybe after a Grimm attack or while its fighters are out hunting, before finally moving in at night and striking. Bunch of jerks.
Yeah.
The worst part is, if the Grimm hadn't attacked before, you'd better be damn sure they will now. And you can't
negative
exactly have
vibes.
Bandits raid your town without at least a few negative emotions. This is also why bandits never stay in the towns they conquer. With
Makes
attitudes
sense.
like the ones they have, Grimm tend to be pretty interested in them as well. As long as they keep moving, they've got a better chance of survival. Besides these small towns, the areas between kingdoms really depend on the continent. Harsh deserts, icy tundras, lush forests, you name it. At this point, pretty much every inch of Remnant has been mapped out. Although there are some areas that no one's gone into and come out alive. And if no one's gone into and come...
Before he finish that, I still want to know more about like this area, because what is this black exactly? I can't think of. Maybe volcanic, and then what is this red? If that's volcanic, then what is this? If this is volcanic, what is that? You know?
come out alive. And of course, somewhere out there is where she is.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY. For more RWBY-related content, check out roosterteeth.com.
There's also a ton of other great animated content on this channel, so go ahead and click that video to watch more.
And please subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell,
Mash that bell.
those notifications. You would know.
All right, here we go. Faunus. The man of the
You know, most of us spend a
the man of the next or the rest of this month, depending on when I get this out. Sun Wukong, you know, Black Man Wukong. If y'all have not played it, I'm gonna tell you like this: it's a fun game. The bosses to me aren't challenging. The most challenging part of this game is figuring out where you need to go. But the combat is amazing.
lot of time talking
And
about
Velvet.
mankind versus Grimm, but technically there is a third party in the mix, the Faunus. In case you're not in the know, the Faunus are a species on Remnant that appear to be human in just about every way but one. Each Faunus has a single animalistic trait, some more apparent than others. Ram horns, tiger claws, cat ears. I swear on my huntsman's license, I once saw a guy regrow his severed lizard tail. I swear, no amount of drinking can make you forget that pretty picture.
Makes sense.
As far as everyone's aware, Faunus have been around as long as mankind, if not a little longer. History gets a little fuzzy past a certain point, but we do know that their kind and ours are completely compatible from a biological
Thank you.
standpoint.
I had the thought in this episode. I was like, can humans mate with Faunus? Thank you.
Take 2 wolf Faunus, and you get a little wolf cub kiddo.
Okay.
A wolf Faunus and a human also typically means your little bundle of joy's teething phase could get a little dicey. But if you take a wolf Faunus and a bull Faunus, for example, it's a complete roll of the dice. For all you know, you could be cleaning up your son's shedded snake skin.
I kind of like that idea.
Scientists are still scratching their heads when it comes
Let's
to
gamble with it.
a lot about the Faunus. But science isn't the real problem. It's how we all get along. Or in this case, how we don't. Early man
Could you imagine you being a bull, she being a rabbit, and then your child come out with wings? That'd just be, it's just wild. But okay, here we go. Does the human side of them look like their parents? You know, like I look like my mom and my dad. But if my mom was a bull and my dad, I'm just stuck on that. And my dad was a wolf, and I came out like he said with lizard scales or something. Maybe not lizard scales. We got to do something else because rabbit ears. All right, I came out with rabbit ears. Does my human form still look like theirs? I want to know.
was scared to death of the Faunus. And honestly, it's not too hard to sympathize with that. Seeing something that looks like you and acts like you walk out of the forest and reveal a pair of fangs can be a little upsetting.
Yeah, I'm
Like
immediately
most
thinking
things
they're a
man
demon.
doesn't understand, all sorts of rumors and stories surround the Faunus. People avoided them like the plague, pushing them out of settlements and
What
sometimes
is that?
even hunting them down. Man began to outnumber the Faunus, and the Faunus began to consider man nothing more than a hostile species. Can't really blame them. These clashes between species were unavoidable, as land that was safe from the Grim was in constant short supply. But it was the Grim that finally brought humans and Faunus together for the first time. A village in Sanus fell under attack, and the only reason anyone survived was because the humans and Faunus united against their common enemy. It
That's
was a
usually
step
how
in
it
the
go.
right direction, but it didn't fix everything. Once humanity learned they weren't so different from the Faunus, they still used those differences as an excuse to exploit and alienate them. The treatment of the Faunus differed around the world, and things wouldn't improve much for them until the Great War.
There go the
Vail
Great War
and
again.
Vacuo against Mantle and Mistral, a war unlike anyone had ever seen. And when it was over, the world was desperate to find compromises that would ensure they'd never see the likes of it again. Faunus were awarded equal rights as citizens of Remnant, and as an apology, they were given an entire continent of their own to do with as they pleased. There were some that saw this as fair and just, but many saw it for what it really was, a slap in the face from a nation of sore losers, and so Menagerie was born. There's still Faunus all over the world, though the fair treatment they were promised varied.
I ain't gonna lie. That's like y'all needing these people to win a war with y'all and then sending them to Australia, bro. Like, look, to Australians, ain't nothing wrong with with y'all modernized society, right? Y'all cities and all that. But what we have learned about y'all wildlife, both aquatic and like terrestrial, I don't want to go to Australia, bro. If I or video, I don't want to go to the outback. Like it's terrifying. All Aussies, bro, they built different. Especially like y'all built different off rip. Y'all even more different if y'all live in the outback or y'all visited regularly. You grew up out there, bruh. And look, I can never like turn my back on Aussies completely. No matter what, like I know the Olympics, us in the U.S. and y'all were going, headbutting. Understand? I grew up on Steve Irwin, and look, I know slide for Steve can't really happen because Steve wouldn't want it. So that's like, I just wanted to put that in there, bro. I would not slide for Steve against Stingrays, but it's really not because I grew up on that man's video. On his show, not videos, episodes, bro. And his son is just like him. Okay, I'm gonna get off this tangent. I'm gonna get back to it. But his son is like him.
varies in quality from place
They gave
to
them
place,
Australia
but
of this world, of
Menagerie will
Remnant.
always be their safe haven. Here's the thing, though. You can only push and prod people so much before they reach a tipping point. And when you pack those people together, it just makes it all the easier for them to get organized and get even.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY. For more RWBY-related content,
This
check
is
out
14.
RoosterTeeth.com.
2 more.
There's also a ton of other great animated content on the channel.
I think the
Go
Great
ahead and
War
click
is
that
the
video to watch
last.
more.
And please subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell,
Mash that bell.
those notifications. You would know.
I ain't gonna lie, I want a mic like theirs, bro. They mics look so nice. The Schnee Dust Company. I know a lot of people who hate this company, including Flint, because apparently it put his dad's business out of business. I remember, bro. I remember. And then the
All
White
right,
Fang
all right, what
and
was I
Schnee got some
supposed to talk
history.
about next? Oh, Oh boy. Yeah, okay. I've got a few words to say about this one. The Schnee Dust Company.
He let turn
Bunch
up.
of self-entitled, monopolizing SNOBs who only care about making a profit, no matter how many little people they gotta step on to make it happen. But that's just my opinion. As you all know, our survival in the world of Remnant depends almost entirely on a crystallized substance known as dust. It powers our cities, fuels our machines, and gives us a fighting chance against the creatures of Grimm. Which means it's extremely valuable.
See, there is something that I forget what documentary I was watching years ago, but it was talking about how much oil do we have left in the world, right? And it was like we could run out of oil in 5 years. I mean, we could. They don't really know how much oil is there, but so it's like we could run out in 50 years, 25 years, 100 years. They don't know, right? They're finding new oil all over the place, but oil isn't renewable or not fast. And the reason why I pause is because how much dust is in the world and how renewable is it? Because if it's like oil, they're building your society off of dust might be good for Ruby's lifetime, Ruby's daughter's lifetime, her granddaughter or grandson, grandchildren, great great grandchildren. But eventually, you're going to run out if it's not renewing at a good rate. And I'm just thinking about that, bro.
Nowadays, it's almost impossible to buy dust products without the Schnee Company snowflake stamped on the box. But it didn't always used to be that way. Nicholas Schnee was the son of a dust miner turned soldier. Born just after the Great War, he found himself at the perfect point in history to take full advantage of the world's next industrial revolution. The Kingdom of Mantle, soon to be Atlas, was in a transformative period. They'd found themselves on the forefront of technology, but realized they depleted nearly all of their natural resources to do so. That's where old Nick came in. Rather than watch his kingdom become dependent on the aid of others, young Nicholas Schnee decided to spend his days at combat school, his nights working alongside his father in the dwindling Mantle mines, and any time in between learning everything he could about anything he didn't know. The kid had a fire in his belly.
Yeah.
When his father died, he left his
Jack of
son
all
everything
trades.
he had. It wasn't much, but it was enough for Nick to set his plan into action.
W
Left
Dad.
school, rallied all the men he could afford, and set out on an expedition to find a dust deposit that could revitalize his kingdom. And wouldn't you know, he actually pulled it off. Fast forward just a few years and the name Schnee suddenly meant something. Quality, affordability, trust. See, all those years spent in combat school were so that Nick could personally oversee every new expedition. People appreciate a man who's willing to stick his neck out for them.
Yeah.
And it's how the Schnee Dust Company earned the business of every kingdom in Remnant. Unfortunately, it's also what led to an early retirement. Nick had started a family that missed him, and his body was tired. Years of working in dust mines can have some nasty side effects on your health. And so enters Jacques Joulet. Having married into the family, Jacques decided to take the Schnee name over his own. He was a lot of words I shouldn't repeat, but most importantly, he was a cunning businessman.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like that.
Jacques managed to convince Nicholas that he was the perfect man to run the SDC in his place. And from a certain point of view, he was right. Under Jacques' leadership, the Schnee Dust Company has become more profitable than ever, completely dominating the industry, but at the cost of the company's soul.
He created a monopoly.
Cheap labor, dangerous working conditions, doing whatever it takes to destroy the competition. Jacques Schnee doesn't care about people. He cares about winning. That, and making sure he's got the best damn PR team in the world. The Schnee name still means something today, but as for what it'll mean tomorrow, well, your guess is as good as mine.
Twice.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY. For
So what I'm seeing here is to really fix her family's name, Weiss. I see she really gotta go hard. And based on, could y'all imagine like if she had a father similar to her grandfather? I feel like that kind of very uptight heiress mentality that her and Winter have. I mean, they're good to each other, and Weiss has been getting better. But I don't think it would have formed at all. I feel like it would have been, I don't know the word, but more down to earth if she had a father like her grandfather.
more RWBY related content, check out roosterteeth.com.
There's also a ton of other great animated content on this channel, so go ahead and click that video to watch more.
And please subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell.
Mash that bell.
Those notifications. You would know.
All right, last one. The Great War. The War. This is like the third Great Ninja War, how they talk about it. Or maybe the fourth.
The Great War. What a terrible name for such a horrible time in history. Though the war itself lasted around 10 years, the century leading up to it was filled with so much tension, you might as well lump them together. And most of that tension was coming from Mistral. Territories rich with resources and safe from Grimm have always been in high demand. But the Emperor of Mistral had managed to conquer nearly all that Anima had to offer, thanks in part to an unlikely friend, Mantle. The two kingdoms had formed an alliance. Mistral provided the small kingdom with goods unavailable in the frozen tundra. In
Makes sense.
return, Mantle introduced technological innovation as well as guidance in the settlement of Anima's cold, northern territory. It was good, until it wasn't. An incident in Mantle led to a strange and unexpected decree: the abolishment of the arts and repression of self-expression. The people of Mantle had come to believe that they
Are we gonna learn about that incident?
would be much safer from the Grimm if they could simply keep the emotions of the masses in check.
No.
Given Mistral's strong, artistic culture, many assumed this would be the end of their alliance. But they were wrong. Mistral complied, selectively, enforcing Mantle's wishes only in the outer territories, allowing the centralized powers to continue to live as they pleased. If you haven't caught on yet, Mistral's full of jerks.
Yeah. Also, artistic expression is almost always a positive thing, unless you're using it for like propaganda. And the removal of that, and even if you never knew it, like let's say that the second, third generation that never knew about artistic expression, what is there to be positive about? And I guess they try to move with the air of neutral is not negative, so the Grimm won't show up. But honestly, I would put neutral. I know it's supposed to be neutral, but I would put it at implicitly negative. No artistic. So that means no music. What I'm doing right here on this video, it might not be too artistic, but from how it sounds, I can't do that. I can't sing songs. I can't rap. I can't paint. Can't draw. Can't do nothing. Yeah, no pottery. None of that. I don't
The people
know,
of
bro.
Vale had a problem with this. Well, they had a problem with a lot of things Mistral and Mantle had been up to. Treatment of their citizens, use of slave labor, and their constant insistence that their way of life was what was best for everyone. Eventually, Mistral made the jump across the sea to the eastern coast of Sanus. The small islands and peninsulas in the area were perfect to establish a settlement. They were so perfect, in fact, that Vale had just begun settling the area themselves. I think we can all guess what happened next.
It always
The
go
king
this
of
way
Vale
too.
did everything he could to avoid armed conflict. Despite cries from his people, he insisted on sharing the land with the settlers from Mistral. But to this day, no one knows who shot first.
It don't
What
even matter,
began as a
honestly.
riot between the two bands of settlers had suddenly become the first battle of the Great War. Mantle quickly came to Mistral's side. Battles were fought on both Sanus and Animus soil. Villages were lost to both combat and...
I know that had to be a painful fight with them using guns and arrows versus swords and shields. I mean, more than likely they had swords and shields too, but I don't know. If they played the long game with those guns, oof, it's brutal.
grim. And it wasn't long before Vacuo decided to join the party. Up to this point, Vacuo had done its best to stay out of the fight. Mantle and Mistral, having both already established a small presence in Vacuo territory years before, promised to leave them provided they didn't interfere. Soon, those talks evolved. It went from don't side with them to side with us and you'll be safe. Vacuo
Tried to muscle
did
him.
not much care for that.
Nope, you ain't about to
Came to
muscle
the
us out.
conclusion that if Vale were to fall, there'd be no one left to stop Mistral and Mantle from conquering them next.
Yep.
So they did what they considered to be the logical thing. They drove Mantle and Mistral out of Vacuo and told Vale they had their backs.
Run the two on two, the 2-man.
So the war raged on. Grim attacks increased worldwide. On the battlefield, this meant a temporary ceasefire in order to deal with the hordes of monsters before returning to the fight at hand. Those left miserable back at home, however, were often helpless with their best warriors away fighting the good fight. A lot of settlements were lost during these years, and most were never reclaimed. Rations on food and dust were put into effect.
You know, it had to be like, I know that the Grimm are attacking everyone, but based on even
of technology
we're gonna go out right quick.
accelerated. Humans and faunas who fought alongside one another became closer. And every day, mankind grew more and more efficient at destroying itself.
All right, looking at this map, right? So we know Mistral already pulled up the Veil. They came down. They got the technology to get down there quick. Then Vacuo is way over here. The majority of this battle took place on probably Veil territory. I mean, the Faunus came from down here over as well, and that might have they might have backdoored Mistral a little bit. But the amount of destruction that happened on their home turf had to be egregious, bro. It kind of is a kind of a testament of like World War I and II, because European cities, European countries were devastated by World War I and II. The U.S. Morally, we were battling it because people are going sent off to die, but we didn't have any like danger to us directly. Like nowadays. We get into it with Russia or China, the missiles are going up, and where they land is where they land. I'm within. I like have thought about this a few times. I'm within nuclear limits of Atlanta, and Atlanta is becoming a more and more popular city. It's worrying, and so yeah, I say that because that is what I feel like happened here. Vale had at that point had to be devastated by the amount of combat they saw on their land.
But it all ended in the Vacuo campaign. Mistral and Mantle knew that if they could take the dust mines of Vacuo, they would effectively cut off the supply of dust to their enemy. It was to be a final devastating blow to Vale and Vacuo. They were only half right. The King of Vale personally led his army into battle alongside the soldiers of Vacuo.
He pulled up.
Decimated the enemy forces. Crown atop his head and armed only with a sword and his scepter, he laid waste to countless men.
That man pulled up like Mamoru
The sun
Uchiha.
was soaked red with blood. The Grim came in droves. It was the single deadliest battle of the war, and legends of the greatness
Mamoru
and terror
Uchiha.
of the warrior king were born that day. Historians will tell you most of these stories are nothing but grandiose hyperbole. Unusually violent weather conditions combined with Mantle's unfamiliarity with the desert combat are likely what led to such a high death count. But whatever the reasoning, everyone bowed to the King of Vale by the time it was over. The Great War had ended. The world was ready to live under the rule of Vale. But the king refused. The leaders of the four kingdoms met on the island of Vital, and it was there that
The
they
Vital
worked
Festival.
together to form a treaty and establish the future of Remnant. Territories were redistributed, slavery was abolished, governments restructured, and the warrior king, the last king Vale would ever have, founded the Huntsman Academies and placed his most trusted followers in command of each kingdom's school. He would teach the world to fight so long as we promised to fight for ourselves and never against ourselves. Seems like we haven't kept our end of the bargain.
Somebody blasting something driving down the street.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for
All right, let's talk about it. So, let me get that map back. Bro. Is this Vacuo or is this that? What, I don't know what this is exactly still. Also, I don't know why y'all would try to go for a campaign as ambitious as cutting off Vacuo's dust. Strategically, it sounds good, and I guess on a world map, y'all, this coast and this might be close enough that it works, but we really don't know. There could be a Pacific Ocean that, like, in Remnant, so far as I've seen, they haven't really shown that much. And so either you got to cross that ocean, which, I mean, if y'all got Atlas Tech or Mantle rather, y'all might be able to get across it fairly quickly. But if it's based on the weaponry and stuff, and this is all fiction, so I'm just kind of thinking out loud. It could have took them weeks to months to get to Vacuo, and then depending on that journey, y'all can't readily call backup in. In the time of the war, there were camps from Vacuo and Vale posted up all throughout here. So y'all hit the capital, their forces are coming up, showing up 1 or 2 days. Y'all are constantly applying pressure. I don't know. They might have camps set up here as well. That's nothing. That's nothing of a distance. So they pulling up. At Mantle, Atlas, y'all got to come all the way through this strait. And knowing Vale, knowing Vacuo, this is cut off. That would have been one of the first things I did. Cut that off. You can't really come through here too well because there's probably already like battle going on in the oceans. So y'all have to either go all the way around this way or maybe try to go around this way. And it's just too long of a journey. It was not a smart idea. But at least now I know what was going on. It's the same thing that happened in all of, like, I guess, medieval, older styles of war. There's always one or two that just wants to keep growing and keep it spreading. And they run into somebody who's not going to let them take over. And they start butting heads. And we get the Great War. But hey, shout out to the War King of Vale, because he could have been tyrannical with it. He could have been like, I can rule the world. I can be the king of it all. But he's like, no, I'm gonna be diplomatic about it. You have your kingdom, you have your kingdom, and you have your kingdom. I have mine. Let's keep it that way. Let's be partners. Smart move. And honestly, with the Faunus being down here, I see them. They should, for one, they shouldn't have been pushed down there, but they should have established their own major kingdom. But I know starting a new kingdom when there's already been some very heavily established and y'all have kind of the smallest landmass is difficult. I gotta give it to them. They need a real X factor to put them on equal ground. And I would love if their symbol was red because we need a red symbol as I'm looking at this. But look, I'm gonna end it here. I've learned. I don't think all I need to know because I feel like in the later seasons I'm gonna learn more. But I've learned a lot of the things I had questions about. And so I'm gonna wrap it up, bro. If y'all enjoyed this, hit the RWBY channel, Rooster Teeth, Viz Media, and everybody from Team Ruby that y'all can think of. Hit them with the goodness. That's like, comment, subscribe, share. Lock it in by hitting that bell. That is the goodness. Hit them with it. And if y'all enjoy my reaction, please do the same for your boy. This has been your boy Reggie Wolf. I am signing out. Peace.